Hey everyone, welcome to the Forcom Frontline. I'm Ashley and I'm your host. Today we have a special episode. General Michael Garrett, Forcom Commanding General, is taking over the podcast and talking with a group of soldiers from Charlie Company, 1508th Parachute Infantry Regiment, 3rd BCT, 82nd Airborne Division, about their role in Army modernization, the importance of mastering the fundamentals, and what people first means to them. This unit has been at the forefront of Army modernization and were some of the first soldiers to test the Army's new integrated visual augmentation system, and also recently participated in the Experimentation Demonstration Gateway event 2021 at Dugway Proving Ground, Utah. They will also take part in Project Convergence later this year, which is a campaign of learning to aggressively pursue an artificial intelligence and machine learning-enabled battlefield management system. So today, joining General Garrett and myself for this conversation is First Lieutenant Frankie Whalen, Staff Sergeant Kentry Reynolds, Sergeant Marcos Ubieta, Sergeant Stephen Sims, and Specialist Matthew Zeisler. So let's go ahead and get started.
So let's talk about modernization. What's interesting, and it's just actually the timing's pretty good here too. Last week I was at San Antonio or Austin. I was at Austin, Texas, visiting General Mike Murray, who is the commander of Army Futures Command. And one of the things that he shared with me on that day, and he always does when I see him, is just how thankful he and his command are with the performance of Forcom soldiers. All these soldiers' touch points that you all do are really, really important. And what they do for us is they provide soldier input up front, as opposed to on the back end of this thing. So first of all, tell us a little bit about IVAS. What does it stand for? And then we can just get your thoughts on it.
Okay, sir. So IVAS is the Integrated Visual Augmentation System, and what that means, it's augmented reality and a heads-up display for us. So the actual equipment that we get and that we use when we have IVAS is the heads-up display, which is the goggles that you've probably seen before that strap over our helmets. That connects to a small computer on a puck that we put on our kit, and then that connects to a GPS radio, which is a networked radio, so we can see everyone else with IVAS, with ATAC devices, drones, anyone else on the network. That's how we connect to each other. On the software side, so as far what does it do for us, without going into the specifics of IVAS, it's got capabilities that kind of change the way we do small unit tactics, and we're learning through that with these soldier touch points. But some of the important pieces of what it does is command and control, navigation. It affects marksmanship pretty significantly. Night vision capabilities change with IVAS, and the overall connectivity to other troops, because we all have this device. So those are some things that are changing, and it's pretty unique picture of the battlefield that we get with IVAS, sir.
So when you said augmented reality, so how does it augment the picture, or what you would see with your own eyes, or what you would see with a standard pair of night vision devices? So,
sir, think of what you see in a normal pair of night vision device, normal night vision device, or just without that at all, and then you layer on capabilities. So, for example, like it helps you with navigation in a way that nothing else that we have does. So, you're looking at you're going through the woods in the middle of the night, and there are features in IVAS that tell you exactly where to go, how far you are from it, where the unit on your left and right is, where the objective is in relation to your current location. All this information is in front of your face, so it's very difficult to miss anything while you're walking. And that's available to every paratrooper. We're all on the same route. We're looking at tactical graphics as we walk. All this is layered in front of our face, sir.
Okay, so this is 2021. I commanded a battalion that's not even over there anymore, 3rd of the 325 over in 2nd Brigade, so the Blue Falcons before they moved them. And when I was battalion commander, one of the things that we tested for the Army, this system called Land Warrior. And Land Warrior was a very similar system. There was a flip down optic, one eye optic. It was a vest, and what this thing gave you was exquisite situational awareness for a light infantry guy, right? Same thing. It didn't have the visual display that you have with IVAS. It was certainly a lot smaller, but what it gave us was, I mean, you knew where everybody in, your company, battalion, just like you, who was ever in the network. And that was, let's see, so I commanded that unit from 2000 to 2002. So that was how many years ago? 25? 20?
19-ish?
19? So we were doing math.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah. Anyways, it's a long time ago. So, and I have seen IVAS, and, there were the principles of, again, providing light infantry, situational awareness, and, the ability to operate in ways that we can't now is one of the reasons we developed it. So, squad leaders, what does IVAS do for you? What's the thing that you like most about it?
Sir, I would have to say the thing I do like the most about it is just the connectivity of now everybody, and it provides a sense of situational awareness that we never had before. At any point in time, any one of my guys or myself could know where everybody is in terms of adjacent units, however far away they are, if wherever like my other teams are, or myself, or the other squads or platoons, all the way down and up. There's really no confusion about where friendly units are and adjacent units are, or like where the objective is, or really anything. It's all right there, and there's just a lot of other things. Being able to communicate in silence to each other through one of the features that it provides, and that sense that situational awareness is a pretty big one, because there's no confusion now on where we need to go or who it is over there that we hear.
What about you, specialist?
So being able to see all the information from the higher echelon and of the lower echelon, it's great, because a lot of lower enlisted, they may not know what's going on, and now they can see it. They know what the objective is. They know where everyone's at. And that makes their job a little bit easier, especially like doing patrols out in the woods. It's sometimes kind of easy or difficult depending on the terrain, but with the IVAS, being able to see who's in front of me and where they're at exactly, I can walk through tons of brush, and it still feels like I'm just, still part of the movement and everything's perfect. The only thing with that is sometimes the information can be overwhelming. I'm the RTO for my platoon, so I understand the communication aspect of it, and seeing everything from the top down, like I see how it all works. And for a rifleman, their job up on the line is just get in position and start getting rounds downrange. So when they get bombarded with too much information, it's almost like they're having a hard time focusing on just getting rounds or suppressing the enemy. So I see it as a great leadership item, but for the lower enlisted, I think we need to really focus on like what information gets put out to them. But it's nice because the IVAS, what information does get pushed out, it can be controlled of who it goes out to.
Yeah, so you're able to filter it. Who can do that?
I believe, I'm not sure who can do that, but I know at least the platoon sergeant and platoon leader can.
Yeah, in our mission planning process, but we took this thing to the field and we're learning as we went. So we realized, after a few days, like, man, our 240 gunner really shouldn't be seeing the chat between the platoon leader and the company commander while we're like on a movement. So we developed TTPs as we went, and one of the things we found is that we can control what these guys can see, because they need to see probably the route. They need to see, depending on who they are, where their left and right friendlies are and stuff. But we would develop during the mission planning process. So that'd be one of the things. All right, where does this information stop, and at what point are we hindering these guys from returning fire or whatever it is we need them to do on a basic foundational level?
So think about maneuvering your platoon, right, through rifle squads. And then you think about, maneuvering, your two fire teams. What does this kind of situational awareness do for you? What does it allow you to do? I mean, this was one of, as I thought about it 20 some odd years ago, my favorite aspect of the previous system was this. So what does it allow you to do?
I would say even for something as simple as like a squad attack, Now I set my base of fire. They're returning fire now. I go to do my bold flank. Before, running through the woods, still kind of, got to look through the woods, make sure I see where they're at. I got to confirm my shifts and lifts. However, like now I can just see it all in front of my face and align everything almost perfectly, and then initiate like that. And I can silently, of course, like I still want to give a visual signal at all, but like that audible signal is it's just silent, and everybody can see that.
Yeah,
at the same time.
And I tell you, and that is a great example, right, of the benefit of this. And you know what? You got to get away from. You're certainly going to have maybe, some kind of visual signal in your pocket, as a backup. But if we don't have to signal at all, why would we? What else does it allow you to do? Think about the enemy. What's the biggest? So think about the Russians and Ukraine and what the Russians were able to do to that infantry battalion. What have we learned from that, and what does this really? And again, it's one of my favorite aspects about the technology. It allows us to disperse. It allows you to. You could take your platoon and put it on a company's front, right? If you wanted to. You could be 50 meters apart. You could start using stuff like, hand grenades and the blast radius of a hand grenade to determine, how far apart, you want your folks during your movement. Your point about, being the point man, everybody's the point man now, right? And you don't have to necessarily walk through the worst terrain following some azimuth blindly, because now you know where you are and you know where you're going, and you can take the best route, for you. What else does it do for us?
Well, sir, to go off what you said, I think it absolutely does provide a tactical advantage as far as adjacent units and moving your pieces. If I'd like to turn around though real quick and just discuss how I think becoming too dependent on that technology could maybe hinder basic infantrymen skills in the future. As far as seeing adjacent units and moving your pieces, set piece, move piece, you can see it on your screen. However, technology is not always 100% or 100% reliable. So what would happen if we are out at night and we conduct a squad attack and for some reason my HUD goes down or my alpha team leader's HUD should go down? While I think this technology and while I think we're moving in a very good direction with it, it's very important for me to keep focusing on the basic infantryman tasks. That's just my 2 cents on it, sir.
No, I tell you what, it's like you're reading my, reading the stuff that I'm sending out to your corps and division and brigade commanders, right? Mastering the fundamentals of what we do, and that's always going to be important. But you know what, though, this is an advantage.
Yes, sir.
And what we have to do is we got to figure out. So here's the deal: why shouldn't we expect this to be as easy to use and as reliable as our phones? I mean, do you ever worry about your phone breaking?
Sir.
Do you? I don't. Well, and when it doesn't do something, I just turn it off. And somebody told me I'm supposed to turn it off every day anyways, once a day to do something. But why shouldn't we expect our technology to be as reliable?
I think we do expect it, sir.
Yeah.
We do. It's just not quite there yet. But going back to the phone analogy, when we were talking with the Microsoft engineers when the last time they were down here, the way they compared it was exactly like an iPhone. How the iPhone has advanced since when it first came out in mid-2000s to where it's at now, and how many features and how much better it's gotten over the years. And that's what we're doing, is providing feedback to make this IVAS system even better. Yeah. So that we expect it to be just absolutely amazing.
What are some of the downsides?
Without going into any of the specific capabilities of the system, I think we've touched on the advantages on situational awareness in the big picture, but I think where we lose a little bit is the situational awareness of the small picture. And more specifically, there are certain times of day where your ability to read ambient lighting conditions is very, very poor with the IVAS, forcing you to use things that you wouldn't normally use if it was just the naked eye. So I found that to be a critical flaw at this point. And with that, also, just the way the system sits on your face, it does kind of limit your peripheral vision. And I noticed that especially like what we were talking about before, with down to the lowest level and maneuver, that could be an issue. But again, I do see the advantages though of dispersion, and just being able to track the big picture. So there's pros and cons to both, as well as the form factor and the weight of the system. I mean, that's something that will always be an issue with any piece of equipment. But I believe at this stage of the game, it's adding more to guys who are already very over-encumbered.
Yeah, well, I think to your point earlier about, having a backup, I mean, you're exactly right. One of my favorite Marines, General Mattis, always talked about, and his thing was not just having a pace plan, for your communications, a primary through an emergency means of communications. His thing was to be able to fight in a post-EMP electromagnetic pulse environment, right? And so, in some cases, that environment requires signal flags, and really, going back to, the very basics. So you make a great point about, I think, how we view all of our modernization efforts, especially when we're talking about our networks, and when we're talking about, technology that is vulnerable to, cyber attacks and, like this technology. I mean, anything that emits an electronic signature, causes, another challenge, for us as well. But we'll sort our way through this. From a comm, so you're the expert communicator here. I'm not, that's a part of the technology that I don't understand probably as well as I should. How many different radios, how many different systems does this require?
So by itself right now, it has a GPS radio that's attached to it, and then we are able to connect our own radios to it as well. So with the GPS, that controls all like the text and everything that goes through the HUD. Now, if we want our own comms and everything like that, we'll have to have our own radios. So it can be quite cumbersome. And obviously, that comes with time. Everyone will get used to it. But with the newer radios that we've seen with the modernization, we're kind of switching out from the old to the new, and the new ones are kind of reliable. I haven't been able to get many hands on it, but from what I've seen so far, like Sergeant Reynolds said, like getting rid of that audible cue and being able to worry about text and like having everyone connected to a network, that makes everything a lot easier. And who can see that is great. But it also comes to the point where like we're so used to the fundamentals and working with our radios and our Peltors. It's like that's how we've known things, and I think that's just something we need to continue to train on.
Yeah. What about power?
The power supply is not bad. From what the Microsoft teams have told us, the battery life can last, we'll say about a little over half a day with one battery, depending on weather conditions. And obviously, we always prepare for the worst, so we carry multiple batteries on us. Most people do. But I think the battery situation can be tweaked just a little bit, and the Microsoft teams are tracking that. So when we go to Project Convergence, I'm excited to see if they made any changes to that.
Yeah, I mean, power's always been a problem. I mean, 20 years ago, when we were testing, the system that I talked about, Land Warrior, we were right on the edge. I mean, the Army was driving, power technology. Now, it was certainly not the same as today. I mean, you have people like Elon Musk and a number of all of the, large auto manufacturers today are developing their own power supply, and so I think we're all gonna benefit, from that, because that's been a challenge in the past. And even now, when I go out and visit training, I'm amazed at how much stuff our soldiers are carrying. And how much of it relies on some kind of battery or some kind of central power source. So we got more work to do on that. What do you all think about the Army's approach to this particular system? Get it into the hands of soldiers, let you break it, let you provide feedback.
Well, sir, I think it is that step in the right direction. I mean, it seems like, I never thought about it before, but now that I've messed with it, it seems like that next step beyond like just our typical night vision or whatever. But I mean, the sooner they get it to us, the sooner we can progress this and get it to a point where it needs to be exactly what it is. So.
Well, do you think I mean, and I'm an old guy, but I kind of realize that, at the rate of change in technology, we may get to a point where this thing, just like our phones, is going to be updated, often, and we don't have to do anything but push a button maybe, and or start it up or shut it down. It'll be interesting. I think all of our equipment, especially software, defined systems, are going to be systems that they're going to change all the time. The form factor, or whatever, the lens or the mask or the glass or whatever that may change. But the software, I think, and that's where we're going with most of the systems that we're using anymore. Any other thoughts on what else? Have you guys got to do anything else other than IVAS?
We've been focused on IVAS. So there's one platoon in our company, myself and Specialist Zeisler being a part of that platoon. We went out to Utah in May to test IVAS as a component of a larger network with a lot of like drones and future vertical lift type modernization things involved, and that was pretty neat to see a side of the Army that we don't really see, and it was like you were just talking about, pretty neat how they, both for IVAS back here and then going out to Utah, that the engineers come to us, Microsoft comes to us, and then they get, after every single event, every time we step off for mission and come back with AARs and engineers asking for our feedback so that they can go take it in the back, fix it, and then bring it back the next day. And this is what we did with it. How do you guys like it now? So that's been pretty awesome, sir.
Yeah, it is pretty neat, and it is it's a different approach to modernizing. You know what our problem is though in the Army? There's so many of us, right? I mean, this stuff is not inexpensive, and I want to say there's like 1.1 million soldiers, 485,000 in the active component, and then the rest in the Guard and the reserves. The Army kind of thinking through their modernization strategy and fielding, like who's going to get what and how much of it do you buy. That's another thing that is something that my bosses think a lot about. How much of this stuff can we afford? Who do we buy it for? What's the basis of issue? Because we have how many different radios do you have in your your combo cage?
Off the top of my head, I can count at least 6 different types.
Yeah. How many do you normally take to the field? How many do you personally? How many are you responsible for? So we're still taking ASIBs, right?
Yeah, we're still using ASIBs.
Still using ASIBs. Right? That hasn't changed.
Overall, it would take about 3 different types, depending on squad leader and team leader positions.
Yeah. What am I missing?
So I was going to ask about readiness. How does the modernization effort really contribute to overall Army readiness?
So the modernization contributing to readiness. So I think the process of modernization, like we were just talking about, bringing engineers to the end users and then getting feedback and improving devices and then bringing them back for more improvement is that's really like taking care of people, and it sounds kind of corny, but taking care of people takes care of the mission. So that's going to improve our readiness down the road. We're all here, putting IVAS on is frustrating right now because it's an early model and it's not the easiest thing to fight in, but we're all doing this with the understanding that 5 to 10 years down the road, it's going to be a game changer for squads and platoons like we're in right now. So I think in the long run, it's huge for readiness. Sure.
It's not going to, well, it ain't going to be 5 or 10 years either. It's going to be, the whole purpose of what we're doing now is to, build or design, validate, break, but to do all of that, a lot quicker than our normal development and acquisition cycles. So we're going to do it a lot faster. Here's the thing with modernization, though, and this is kind of where I am on it. And I have to, I am responsible. That's my number one job as the Forcom commander is Army readiness. And when I say readiness, I'm talking about real readiness. And real readiness is, soldiers who are masters with their weapons, right? Because if a guy can't shoot, if an infantryman, you got somebody in your squad that can't shoot, then...
I will say I'm fortunately blessed with some...
Well, what I'm saying, though, is, if it can't, then... the purpose of maneuvering a squad is useless, right? And that's the point of contact. My point is we have to be good. We have to be better and good. We got to be excellent, at the individual and small unit level, because that's where the fighting's going to happen. But we also have to invest in our future, and that's what you all are doing. And so you're really doing a little bit of both, right? You are balancing, future readiness, which is, that's one way to look at our modernization efforts. It's our future readiness that you all are building, as you move along. But what we all have to do, and you said it, right? We got to be able to do this, with no nods in the harshest conditions, and then we have to be able to do it with the new technology.
So I was just going to go off of what you said, Lieutenant Whalen. I'm curious, as an outsider who has not seen the equipment, can you, all I'm picturing is you go to an arcade and you have the 3D thing and you put it on. What does it look like? What does it entail?
Yeah, so the hardware portion, so the equipment that we actually carry is when they say HUD, it's a heads-up display. So that's what we refer to the goggle. Everything that goes on your head, it's goggles with 3 straps, and it straps over your helmet.
Is it big?
It's pretty big.
Okay.
It comes off your face a few inches
Okay.
because it's got sensors on top of the goggles, and those sensors they're used for a lot of things. Simulated training environments. That's what helps with our night vision. Cameras, all kinds of stuff on there. So there's a lot built into just that thing that goes on our head, and it looks like ski goggles, really.
Okay.
Yeah, and then that's a lot of cables involved, but the 3 main components are a computer puck.
Wow.
That's the buttonology and everything that we're controlling the heads-up display with, and then that routes to a data radio that Specialist ISR was talking about. It's an additional radio that we carry to connect IVAS to IVAS and IVAS to any other device on the network.
All right. I just got HUD in my new car, and it's amazing. So I'm.
I have it in my car too.
I love it.
I do too. My wife thinks it's a waste of money, but yeah.
My son likes to be able to see how fast I'm going from the back seat and tells me if I'm going too fast or too slow. So, anything else on modernization, sir?
No, I think, like I said, what you guys are doing are helping us figure out what works. We're giving feedback directly to Microsoft, and we're going to end up with a better product faster. And then, I want you to continue to remind folks that although this stuff that we're doing is, it's certainly a requirement for all of us, because we gotta continue to modernize our Army. But being excellent at the basics and being able to do this stuff without those things is important as well. So don't forget that.
All right, so let's go into. Let's start with foundational training days. And I know you guys call it All-American Days. We're going to leave this question open to anybody who wants to answer, but how do you think that this time that is taken away from training helps build trust and helps you guys get to know one another?
Well, I mean, I think it's great. We have an entire day that is solely dedicated to learning and understanding my soldiers on a more personal level that I don't always get to do. So now is this day. And of course, when I get the chance, I do it, but this is solely for that. I get to kind of take a step back, take the rank off and just see how they are in their personal life, because that always their personal life is kind of I guess in a sense the foundation of how they are at work. And if they're not squared away personally, they're not going to perform how they need to when it comes time to do the job. So I think it's pretty great.
How many of you, so when this first came out, what was what'd you think when, whoever told you, your company commander, battalion commander, okay, Lieutenant Whalen, the higher ups have now dictated that we give up 1 day a month to focus on this is my squad kind of stuff?
Yeah, so the first reaction, sir, is always, man, you're putting another thing on my plate, and I don't have enough time as it is. But and the more we've done these, the more we've gotten used to the importance of this isn't taking a day away, it's protecting time to focus on things that matter in terms of readiness in a way that we don't normally think about it. Like readiness in terms of counseling, adult to adult, how are you, how is your family? These are, like, we'll put out priorities every month. Today, for example, hazing and bullying is the focus. So we're going to counsel with that in mind. That's something we'll bring up, something we'll talk about. It's important to have that protected time. We are better off for it when that day is designated to focus on that, sir.
Anybody, you know why we're doing this? You know why we did this?
Sir, honestly, I think it's because it's a step towards making people the priority. I think this time really allows us to do that.
Let me ask you this. Do you guys think, so the Army's priorities are people, readiness, and modernization. Those are the Army's priorities. Those are my priorities. Those not my priorities. Our priorities as Forces Command. What do you guys think about that? What do you think? So think about, close your eyes for a second. Close your eyes. All right? Think about what you did this past week. Now open your eyes and tell me what you think your priority was based on where you spent your time this week.
I'd say, sir, from my perspective, my platoon's priority was prep for next week. So we're going into IVAS squad live fires. So we've been dedicated to making sure we're administratively, tactically prepared to do that, sir.
Okay. All right. What about you?
Very similar boat, sir. Lot of stuff, and it's always like that. It's always very high strung, very fast paced. Tasks constantly coming down. You got to take care of this, take care of that. We got this coming up, and again, circling back, like that's why it's important to have that protected time, because if not, you get so caught up in that it's hard to communicate the bigger picture to my paratroopers, and also get more from them as far as like what's going on with them personally, stuff like that.
Who sets your priorities?
I mean, everything's a priority, sir. Everything that comes down is like the number one priority. So I guess at my level, I get to decipher, I guess, what the priorities are. But of course, at each level, they get to decipher what they feel the priorities are there.
You're a smart guy, because one of the things that I say is that at the end of the day, a company commander, first sergeant, are determining what the Army's going to do. Because, that's where the people are, right? All the soldiers are in our company battery troops, and then inside of our platoons and squads. And just like you said, when if everything's a priority, then what? Nothing's a priority, right? And then the other thing is, if they just give it all to you, you get to determine, what gets done that day. But the fact of the matter is, one of the reasons why, we chose this approach, this foundational readiness day approach, was just that. Because I know as a Forcom commander, I know that by the time stuff gets to you, it is more than you are resourced to do, and you're making decisions, for me, basically, right? And so on this foundational readiness day, and this was just one of the things that came out of one of many things that came out of our investigations into the death of Special Ski in there at Fort Hood. There have been 3 major investigations there, and we've learned a lot. The Army has taken this on in a big way. There's a People First task force, that consists of certainly leadership at the Army level, but also, there's participation from folks all across the Army, that participate in this. And there's about 70 things that we're trying to fix. But the one thing that, that I know based on the 39 years of, I'm in my 39th year of service, right? And the one thing that I do know is that we don't know our soldiers as well as we should. We don't know them as well today as I think. And again, this may just be Garrett's, observation, and you guys can, make the point or not that, I'm old and out of touch. But, knowing our soldiers and knowing the folks inside of your formation is really, really important. When I was a battalion commander here in the 82nd, I remember the brigade commander, this guy by the name of Scaparati. I'm getting ready to change out battalion command, and he goes, Mike, when you command your brigade, you're not going to be able to do it like this, the way you're commanding your battalion. I said, what do you mean, sir? He goes, you know every one of your paratroopers. And I said to myself, or I thought to myself, he thinks I know every one of my paratroopers. But you know what? So did they, right? So did they, because I made an effort to get to know as many of them as I could. And I bet you if you go find some Blue Falcons, every one of them, will have a, Lieutenant Colonel Garrett story. So the whole point of this Foundational Readiness Day is really an opportunity for us to get to know the people in our formation in a way that, we wouldn't otherwise. And I'll tell you what, and I don't know about you, how old are you?
26, sir.
26. Are you married?
I am, sir.
You see any kids?
No, sir.
No kids. What about you?
I'm 28, sir.
Okay, you're old. Jeez, you're almost as old as me. No, I'm just kidding. Any kids?
No, sir.
Married?
Yes.
Okay. What about you?
I'm 27, sir.
You're old too. No, I'm just kidding.
I have a 3-month-old at home.
Okay, good. What about you?
I'm 27, sir.
Kids?
No, sir.
Wife?
No.
Not yet. What about you?
24, sir.
Married?
Yes, sir.
Are you?
I am, sir.
How long have you been married?
Year, sir.
Nice. No kids yet, though, right?
No, sir.
Yeah, good. Take your time. Take your time. So let me ask you this, though. Do you feel? So think about this last year. What a year. I would have said something else, but this microphone reminded me of. Got to be careful not careful what I say, but what a year, right? Think about what we've asked you all to do for the last 18 months. So what kind of things have you learned about yourself, and what have you learned about? When you think about, hey, do I really know my soldiers? What was the answer to that?
I think I'm pretty well at knowing my guys, sir.
Did you know them before?
I've always kind of valued my guys in that sense. I've always kind of looked at there's two levels of respect when it comes to the Army. The natural level that this brings, that of course they have to respect, with that personal level as well, is directly responsible for their work ethic when I, task them with something, or I expect or I want them to do something. If I don't have that personal level, and I don't really get that until I earn it from them, for one, and then earn their trust. They're not going to give me that 100%. They'll probably cap out about 70, 75 if I don't take the time to earn their respect and trust.
What do they want out of you? What do you think they want you?
Just treat them like human beings, sir. Right? Subordinate doesn't mean subhuman. I think a lot of NCOs forget that at the end of the day, this guy goes home and takes his uniform off just like I do, and he has a life outside of that. I think guys do forget that. They get blinded a little bit by the position and treat guys in a way they really don't need to be treated, and I think they can perform a lot better if they kind of snap out of that.
What do you think your folks want? What are they looking for you to do for them?
Sure. So honestly, I think my paratroopers, they want me to care, and I do, of course, about their thoughts, their goals, their aspirations, things that are going on in their personal life, because of course that's most important to them, and like Sergeant Reynolds said, it's very easy as an NCO with a bunch of tasks to be like, well, this has got to get done, this has got to get done, but asking that of somebody who isn't in the right headspace could just make the problem worse. So I think it's very important to take that step back and actually know, and like Sergeant Reynolds said, at the end of the day, everyone just wants to be treated like a human, and I think that's very important with your subordinates. What
else is important, though, to our soldiers, especially our new ones? What else do you think they want from their leaders? So they want to be treated like they want to know that their leaders care. I agree. What else do they want?
Yes, sir. They absolutely want to know that we care, but also they want to know that we can keep them alive in combat.
Yeah.
So, I definitely try to be empathetic with my soldiers, talk to them one-on-one, get to know them personally, and that's why these All-American Days are great. Also during PT hours, I took the time to not only improve our physical readiness, but take the time to talk to my soldiers. For example, we just had July 4th. So we went back to PT on Tuesday. Talk to them. How was your July 4th? Where'd you go? Like, tell me what you did. Just little things like that. I think that they know that you care. But then also, when it's time to get down to business, time to train, they know you're going to be professional. You treat them with respect, and they're going to follow you into combat.
Well, here's the other thing, and again, you are exactly right, because there's a line, and I don't know how fine that line is, and this is one of those things that all leaders kind of work through, right? Because nobody wants to be hated, and you certainly want to have a relationship with the soldiers that you lead. But I think one of the most important things is standards, right? Our soldiers should look at their leaders and never guess at what the standards are. And I'm, like, look at all of you, right? You guys could be on recruiting posters. And that's normally what happens when people come see me. They don't normally send duds to do podcasts or lunch. I've asked a couple times, I said, hey, send me some duds so I can just see if we have any. Because all I get to hang out is with the best people we have. But seriously, I want you all, as you think about this leadership thing, I mean, there's only one way to do it, right? And it is, in Garrett's opinion, especially in the business that we're in, right? This is the, the readiness, that deters our adversaries, is the readiness that we have in the 82nd Airborne Division and the immediate response force and battalion, right? Just like whenever, I think it's probably 18 months ago when we deployed, the immediate response battalion and brigade into Iraq. That's real readiness. You can't do that without practice and without a lot of effort. But that's what one of the things that. So when you think about readiness, that's what I think about. Talk to me about this. What have you learned from your soldiers? Now, one of the things that and it really crushes me, right? I mean, I get all these reports every day and I get the active component, the reserves, and the guard. So all the suicides, all of the other things that happen, and I just don't understand. And what we're hoping is that this relationship that you have with your soldiers, spending a little bit more time with them, will allow you to maybe identify problems before they become insurmountable to that soldier. Do you think that is that going to happen as a result of what we're doing?
I believe so, sir. I mean, my guys know, when it's time to turn it on, it's time to turn it on. And then I think also now that we're focusing a lot more on knowing them as people, it will be a lot easier to identify anything that's off a little bit, right? Like this guy who's normally probably the goofy one of the squad or whatever, he's being real quiet, and that's typically not normal. And I've spent enough time interacting and knowing him that I have identified that, because one of the largest issues in the military is this monstrous sense of self-pride, to where nobody can ever just bear themselves and ask for help when they need to. And I think that's something that for now, after my 7.5 years, that I finally kind of feel the effects that we're getting away from, and making it known it's okay to ask for help.
And now when you say help, you're talking about behavioral health, or you're just talking about help in general?
Sure.
Anything?
No, just taking
money,
the first step.
Yeah.
To find it, at least, is huge in itself. A lot of guys don't even do that.
What do you think?
I absolutely agree with Sergeant Reynolds. Without stepping on anyone's toes here, it's sometimes hard for those in the lower enlisted to go and approach someone of a higher rank and saying, I have a problem. And it's not because they're afraid to. It's their leadership. Sometimes, they have to be not only a role model, but they have to be a leader. And I think it's more important for their battle buddies. So I live in the barracks, and I've seen it multiple times. People have done it to me. They've come up to me and they're like, hey man, nothing's wrong with me, but I just got a lot of stuff on my chest. Can I get it off? And at no point will I ever turn anyone down. And that's fine. I can take 10, 15 minutes out of my day and talk to someone. I will never turn them away. But at the same time, it's like, it's so hard to address it, because just because we don't address it doesn't mean it's not an issue. And we need to constantly keep working on mental health so that we can give 100% when we go to work, and that we can trust each other when we're out on the field, doing live iterations. Last thing I want is someone to make a mistake, or, someone to make a wrong decision saying, I just had a moment of weakness, and, it could be stopped before it ever becomes a problem.
Yes, sir. And going off what he's talking about, from my perspective, it's like one of the more difficult things I have to do, and it's something that things like these days make me better at. But I'm a 24-year-old, and I've got an RTO who's older than me. He's got more life experience than me, and I got to go up to guys like him every day and ask another grown man, how are you doing, like financially, how are you doing in this area, just to use a couple examples. Where's your head at? And that's not easy. That's not an easy thing to do. But our platoon and company, and I think the direction that the Army's moving is it's okay to talk about those things, and that's what we need to be good at as leaders. That's what we need to focus on. So I found just myself just on these days growing each time. And it matters most, I think, at the squad and platoon level, like those conversations, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, and so, we've spent an hour together, so that means you guys you can't call me Mike, but you can email me. And here's what I tell you, there are a lot of things that, I wish I knew. I mean, I really wish I knew what causes young men and women to kill themselves, more men. But I'm just, how bad can a relationship be? How bad can a problem be where, the solution is to end your life? I just don't understand, and it's something that I really, really work hard to try and understand, but I'm just not getting there. We are working very, very hard in the Army, but I tell you, it is a challenge, and it breaks my heart, every day, because that's about how often it happens, it seems. And it's just, we got to be able to do more than just say a prayer, right? And call somebody at the end of this. And this is something that we all have to figure out. How do we make a difference here? We are running out of time, and I want to take you guys down to the office. I'll show you my office real quick. We'll get us a picture, and then I'll let you guys get out of here for the weekend. But I do want you to, if you have any thoughts on, especially the suicide piece, if you think that, hey, here's something that, the people that I work with, or my sense of just, the Army leadership, and you can use General Garrett, these are some of the things maybe that you're not seeing or you're missing, because it is a problem. Well, look, I have really enjoyed this. And the last question for all of you is, who had to Google the Forcom commander to figure out what I did? Did you guys all know? Do you know now? Who has any idea what I do, what I'm responsible for?
I'm going to be honest, I have no idea, sir.
All right, good. I like that. Yeah, so I am, as a Forcom Forces Command, is responsible for manned, equipped, trained forces in support of combatant command requirements for the Army. And a big chunk of the operational Army falls under Forces Command. And then all of the Army Reserve falls under Forces Command for training, readiness, oversight, for mobilization and deployment. And then all of the Guard when they're mobilized, so whenever the Guard's mobilized. So every day it's about readiness, right? And that's my job. And so I think, there is, most days, one of the things that I think about is how do we balance as an Army effectively, our priorities of people, taking care of our people, being ready to do what the Army exists for. And we only exist for one reason. We exist to fight and win our nation's wars, right? So take care of our people, be ready, and then stay on track with our modernization efforts. I mean, think about it, guys. I'm in my 39th year of service. as a MAC infantry platoon leader in 1985. So 84, I came in the Army. 85 at Fort Stewart, Georgia. We started to field the Bradley and the M1 Abrams, and it's the same tank today. The same hull. You got different technology in there, but it's basically, the same stuff, right? And so we have to modernize our Army, and we're going to have to, I think walk a very, very fine line here over the next 5 to 10 years to ensure that, we keep our people with us. The all-volunteer force doesn't happen by accident, and you don't keep it by accident. We have to work at that. So we got to take care of our people, but we gotta stay ready. And I like the way that you said it earlier. We can't forget that. All right. So if you were the Forcom commander, right? What would you change? What would you do? What order would you issue tomorrow? Start with we'll put the platoon leader on the spot first.
Okay, sir. I don't want to be too vague, but I mean, in the fight to balance all these different priorities, it's one thing we always have to come back to is continue to find ways to protect paratroopers' time. I don't think that can ever be understated, and things like in the 82nd we have All-American Family Time on Fridays.
What time does that start?
14:30.
Let's not worry about that, sir.
But things like that, getting guys to out of work to take their kids to school on the first day of school, adopting like the 80 seconds, going to operational readiness cycle to give guys predictability about the time they're going to be spending at work. Things like that is extremely important, and that I don't know, that would be my thing for the day, sir.
All right, I like that. What about you?
Sir, so I couldn't agree with Lieutenant Whalen more on his piece, but to touch on something else, I'll circle back to modernization. It seems to, and obviously I have a very narrow perspective on these things, being in my position, and I'm sure there's a lot of things I'm not privy to. But in terms of the infantry and modernization, I would look at what are some commercial solutions to problems we've been having with equipment. As far as, say lightweight body armor, something like that. The war on terror has lasted 20 years, and private industry has come up with a lot of solutions for problems that we're having. And these are things that, we could have in our hands tomorrow. That I think would, after reading Winning at the Point of Contact, that would allow my squad to maneuver faster, see better at night, get less tired, have to carry a lighter load overall. Those are things that I think could give us an edge in combat and could happen very quickly without a drawn-out development acquisition cycle.
And again, the only thing I would tell you is, and I absolutely agree, and our goal is to provide the absolute best equipment, to our soldiers that we can. But remember, there's 1.1 million of them, right? And therein lies our challenge. I mean, if you go look at, where Lieutenant Whalen's going, right? He's going to go to the Ranger Regiment. Smaller scale, they're able to do a lot of kind of what you just described. A little bit harder, though, when you start now talking about, a few thousand to hundreds of thousands. And that's the challenge that we have, but good one. What about you?
Well, to start, sir, I'd probably put a Skyline chili on Fort Bragg.
There we go. You don't have to. I'll make it for you. I will make it for you.
To go in a little bit of a different direction, though, than Lieutenant Whalen and Sergeant Ubieta, sticking with the food, though, personally, I would put a 24-hour DFAC on this post. That's just me speaking, being on staff duty a few times. It gets to 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and I can't leave post. That is my job to be there. I am the representative at the desk for my battalion, but I'm still hungry.
Is anything open 24 hours?
Not that I can think of, sir.
At least not on
Not
post.
on
That's
post.
available.
Not on post. That's just me.
Let me ask you this. Who goes to the mess hall? Dining facility, excuse me. All right, you do. Occasionally. Think about folks that live in the barracks with you. Do most people eat in the dining facilities?
No.
Yeah.
Actually not.
Yeah. Why not? Well, you know what? Don't tell me that now. That's that's another podcast. We can talk about quality food. All right?
So along the lines with mental health and also like future conflict and readiness, a lot of things that I see is, as an infantryman, we perfect our craft on the range, and we're excellent when it comes to the M4. But there's also weapon systems that we haven't used, that we've never shot before, like the AT4, the Carl Gustav, Mark 19, 320s. A lot of these infantrymen and women, like, we haven't been able to use live rounds. And I remember the first time I shot out of the Carl Gustav, I was nervous. I was not ready for it. It's a recoilless rifle, but still, like, I was able to have that experience that I know a lot of people haven't. So I would like to see, and I know funds and financial allocation is always an issue, a way to get some of these soldiers hands-on so they know what it's like. So in a combat situation, if something happens to this person, like my AT goes down, they're going to be able to pick it up, and they know exactly what it's like to fire it.
You know, that's a good point. And we used to be pretty good at cross-training folks, and it, goes back to time. But that is great. Okay, and we certainly have the resources to do that.
For me, sir, I think a big one is constantly and like maximizing our improvement of single soldiers' living conditions. Because at the end of the day, these guys go to work and then they go home to the place that they're told to live. And when it's not like the best, that can in itself take a toll on a soldier. I know I personally didn't enjoy living in the barracks, and I know it's always getting better. There are a lot of great barracks on Fort Bragg. Unfortunately, One Fury doesn't live in one of them, but it just seems like, especially when it comes to kind of like DPW in a lot of sense, really rough to get things kind of squared away. I know I can't remember exactly the time, but it wasn't entirely too long ago where one of the soldiers in my platoon was told they couldn't fix his door because he was on the 3rd floor and it was a low threat room, and I was like, that just doesn't make sense to me. Like, people can get into his room, but it's low threat because it's on the 3rd floor. However, all of his belongings into his home, which is what the barracks room is for him, isn't important enough to the people who are supposed to fix it.
Yeah. So no, you're exactly right, and this is one of those things that we're still struggling with as an Army, right? So when I was battalion commander, we owned the barracks. When I say we owned them, company commanders were signed for them. We had repair and was it utilities? We called them R&U. We had an R&U NCO. I think it stands for repairs and utilities. But when something like that happened, we didn't call the you didn't call the post engineers or Department of Public Works. You called Sergeant Garrett came up there with his toolbox that he was signed for from the company, and he could do small, or she could do small repairs. And that's really what we have to get back to here. And there are people, and I'm talking about senior leaders. I mean, me and friends of mine, as we talk about our Army, we can't help sometimes but to reflect on our experiences. But our experiences in the barracks were a lot different than today's experience in the barracks, right? When I was platoon leader, I was inspecting barracks. If we weren't out in the field, once a week, I was walking through rooms, and you had to have socks rolled up, underwear folded a certain way, inside of your wardrobe or closet. Things had to be hung a certain way, shoes had to be, and the room, bed had to be made up, and not a whole bunch of stuff, around. And we went through this cycle of allowing soldiers a little bit more autonomy, allowing them a little bit more privacy, and I'm not sure if that's all been good, to be honest with you.
Sword, sir, for sure. Yeah. It's definitely a double-edged sword.
Yeah. But I don't disagree with you. They absolutely deserve the best that we can give them. And our responsibility, though, is take care of it. One of the things that I try and do every day, when I say my prayers, I pray not to be a hypocrite, because the farther I'm away from you all, the easier it is for me to put something in an order, but not be able to do it. or not to have a good sense for the impact of it. And so this is helpful for me. This has really been helpful. And I tell you, I never, like I said, and I'm serious. I get to. This is one of my favorite things, hanging out with you all, because I said I don't get to do it as often as I would like. PT would have been fun this morning too. That's probably why they picked you all too. Thanks. Appreciate the feedback.
Well,
All right.
thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing this.
Yeah.
Thank you for taking the time, and thank you all for taking the time as well.
All right.
Thank you, Ashley.
Thanks for having us.